Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in a Year 2021, day 160. And on this day, we are looking at Proverbs 19, 20, and 21. This is actually our second last day of working in Proverbs. And as I've said in the past, in this kind of setting, it's impossible to really deal with Proverbs properly. So I'm hoping that you are meditating on the ones that really stand out for you. And I'm just using this process to highlight some of the ones that deal with relationship, Yahweh's relationship with ours and ours with Yahweh, not even really getting to touch on the ones that deal with our relationship with each other. So we're going to start off with verses 2 to 3 of Proverbs 19. And it says, "The best way to live is with revelation knowledge. For without it, you'll grow impatient and run right into error. There are some people who ruin their own lives and then blame it all on God." Yeah, isn't that the truth? So the best way to live is according to the revelation knowledge that you've received. And as we've talked about before, there's one thing about learning the instruction of the word. It's another thing when the Holy Spirit gives you such revelation of that you feel it's now part of you. So what the Spirit reveals to you, what he takes you to the deeper places in, that's what you are supposed to be acting upon now. That's how you're supposed to be living. So that's an important bit of information that I wish I had known when I was younger. I didn't put the other verse here. Okay, so I've put two verses here. I believe it's 5 and 9. Okay, I could be wrong on that, but this is supposed to be 5 and then 9. And the reason I lumped them together here is because they're related. Perjury won't go unpunished, and liars will get all that they deserve. And then tell lies, and you're going to get caught. And the habitual liar is doomed. And the reason I lumped these together, and this may not sound relational, but is very much relational, is the whole impact of how important the word is. Yahweh goes to great lengths to protect what he has promised, to fulfill what he has promised. He pays a high price for everything that he has promised, such as Jesus Christ. He promised to love us. And so Jesus is the culmination of that. That's the pinnacle of his love right there that enables us to enter into this intimate relationship with him. So in turn, those who follow, those who deny themselves, take up their cross and follow Jesus, do what Jesus does, we reflect our Father, his heart. So when he refuses to lie, when he goes through the lengths that he goes through in order to keep his word, we're supposed to do the same. So those who don't, it's a major thing, and that's something to keep in mind. Verse 17. Look at this. Every time you give to the poor, you make a loan to the Lord. This is such an interesting way to see this. Really, because we know that the relationship with the poor, the relationship with the widows, the orphans, the immigrants, those who are marginalized, they're absolutely, they have Father's attention. He loves them immensely. And we in turn are supposed to, and we are supposed to be those hands and feet and the giving and the loving and the hugs and everything that they need, he pours through us. So this is very interesting the way this is worded here. Every time you give to the poor, you make a loan to the Lord. Don't worry, you'll be repaid in full for all the good you've done. And a number of us can testify to that. In fact, just recently, there was a family that we took up some offerings for because of I won't go into details, but it was a rough situation, and I gave a large sum of money, and this week since then I've been getting these little unexpected bits of money coming in from places I didn't, just wasn't in my mind that I'd be receiving money. And today a rather large sum came in. And yeah, everything that we gave out to the family, I've now received back. So I find that to be pretty amazing, and that's exactly what verse is talking about, even though some people have problems with that. Okay, so verse 21, it has here, a person may have many ideas concerning God's plan for his life, but only the designs of God's purpose will succeed in the end. Now, what's important is to understand the word succeed. Okay, so you can make whatever plans you want. You have the freedom, you have the free will to do what you want. But there are certain laws in place. There are natural laws that God has put in place, or supernatural laws that He has put in place, and He has given us the ability to learn these things, to cooperate with Him, and so when we do things according to His design, the designs of His purpose, we'll succeed in that. But we're free to do whatever we want. It's just that there's no guarantee there's going to be any success in that whatsoever. It says only the designs of God's purpose will succeed in the end. So yeah, keep that in mind. In verse 23, we read here, when you live a life of abandoned love, this is just like awesome here, guys. When you live a life of abandoned love, surrendered before the awe of God, here's what you'll experience: abundant life, continual protection, and complete satisfaction. This is we can call this the fruit of abandoned love, if you want to. But see, it's defined here, because the problem is that so many of us want this kind of experience, but we're not willing for it to be defined. But it is defined. When you live a life of abandoned love, surrendered before the awe of God. So surrendered in relationship to Him. It's in surrender. And then we can really understand the love that goes beyond what most people could ever possibly experience. So it moves us to the point where it empowers us to actually walk in obedience to Father's heart, to what He's designed, what He wants. You can do whatever you want, guys. You can pursue whatever you want. You have those desires within yourself. Go. He's not stopping you. He's not controlling you, but it doesn't mean it matches up with Him. And what He's talking about here, when we live a life that matches His heart, because He's the designer, so He gets to call the shots. It's we're in His teapot. It's His call. So like when we live this abundant or abandoned love in context of relationship with Him, what we experience is abundant life, continual protection, and complete satisfaction. So yeah, that is hard for people to take. Okay, in Proverbs 20, verse 4. I've been saying this forever. He blesses the work of our hands, so work. If you're too lazy, it says in verse 4, if you're too lazy to plant seed, it's too bad when you have no harvest on which to feed. And we've talked about this before, like our responsibility, the farmer's responsibility is to plant the crop. After that, he really loses control. He can try to irrigate. You only really do irrigation if you don't have a great supply of water. But the whole idea is that we do the work of planting, and then the rest is up to the Lord. He sends the sunshine, He sends the rain, He sends everything that's needed to see that harvest come in, to see that crop grow. It's up to Him. So in our life, He's promised to bless the work of our hands, but it means that we have to work. He can't bless what isn't there. He can't bless work if we're not working. So we have to work, and then He can bless that. So that's an important principle that some people kind of miss out sometimes. Verse 7, the lovers of God will walk in integrity, and their children are fortunate to have godly parents as their examples. And what my note here is the children don't always see it that way. there's a lot of things about my parents I didn't appreciate until I was much, much, much older, and still some things now that I'm still coming to appreciate. But yeah, what more can be said about that? That's just where it is. In fact, I just today, now you're hearing this a few days later after I've recorded it, but today I turned around and I buried a man today who was a good friend and who was a great blessing. And in burying him, his children had to say goodbye, and what he was to them, who he was to them was something amazing. I saw it in them while he was alive. But to hear their expression, in these moments, they came to appreciate, they really came to appreciate how fortunate they were to have such a godly father. And let's hope that children don't realize that fact. They realize it before they don't have their parents anymore. So verse 12, lovers of God have been given eyes to see and ears to hear from God. This is such a short verse, but it's such an important verse. Lovers of God have been given eyes to see and ears to hear from God. There's so many times that things have been happening, and I've talked to people about, wow, it's amazing to see God do this and that, and they say, well, we didn't see him, we don't know it was him, it could have been coincidence, and it was so evident, it was so clear. And when we pursue him, when we love him, the word tells us that as we seek his face, we will find him, and as we love him, we will see him. When our heart is possessed for him, we see him in everything around us, whereas everybody, it just looks normal to them. It just they can't see it whatsoever. So there's a lot of Christians who don't even get this. There's a lot of people who go to church every Sunday and they don't get this. They never see any evidence of God in their life, and yet he's all around. They're just not tuning in. And it's love that tunes us in. Verse 15, you may have an abundance of wealth, piles of gold and jewels, but there is something of far greater worth. Speaking revelation words of knowledge. Yeah, that's an honor and a privilege. It really is. There's that's aside from being able to be invited into people's pain, into their celebrations of joy, into these moments in their life. This is a really incredible honor and privilege to be able to speak revelation words of knowledge into people's lives. And I thank the Lord that every time I go to present his word, this is what he gives me. And I thank him for that revelation and the impact it has in people's lives. It's just amazing stuff. Verse 22, grace is not a New Testament thing. Don't ever say, I'm going to get even with them if it is the last thing I do. Wrap God's grace around your heart, and he will be the one to vindicate you. As David showed us and demonstrated, you have to leave that in the Lord's hands. He has his way of dealing with it, and that leaves your hands innocent. And then we have this thing, allowing the mystery. We have to allow mystery in our life. In verse 24, it is the Lord who directs your life. For each step you take is ordained by God to bring you closer to your destiny. So much of your life then remains a mystery. You have to allow for that mystery. We often want the answer of why to everything, but you've got to leave room there. Got to leave room for the mystery. Now here's some facts about relationship. In chapter 21, verses 2-3, we may think we're right all the time. Those of you who are married, pay attention. You may think you're right all the time, but God thoroughly examines our motives. Yeah, so like it's him that we want to listen to. It's him that we want to tune into. We may think we're right all the time, but God thoroughly examines our motives. So show me, Lord, where I'm wrong. It pleases God more when we demonstrate godliness and justice than when we merely offer him a sacrifice. Yeah, that one speaks for itself. Just leave it there. Okay, verse 12. A godly, righteous person has the ability to bring the light of instruction to the wicked, even though he despises what the wicked do. See, this is that part where we get we're in but not of. We're in but not of. Too often we try to sanitize our lives. We want to be surrounded by like-minded people all the time, and it's wrong. That's not where we're supposed to be. Yeah, like it's iron sharpens iron. We have to have those deep, wonderful friendships and relationships with fellow believers, but our actual work is with those who aren't there. And that's what we need to be doing. We need to be with them. And we have that ability to bring light, the light of instruction to the wicked. It doesn't mean we like what they do. And this is where we have to get to, and hanging out with them. We may not like what they do. We don't approve it. But at the same time, we're not going to allow that to separate us from them. Yeah, can you be there? Because that's not the easiest thing in the world. Verse 13. What breaks his heart should break ours. If you close your heart to the cries of the poor, then I'll close my ears when you cry out to me. He has expectations, people. We have to love what he loves, hate what he hates, and allow our hearts to break over what breaks his, so that we can be those instruments that he's called us to be. In verse 21, the lovers of God who chase after righteousness will find all their dreams come true. Well, yeah, that's what the word says. What did Jesus say? Ask whatever you want. The lovers of God who chase after righteousness will find all their dreams come true. An abundant life drenched with favor and a fountain that overflows with satisfaction. Yeah, and I don't know why we spend so much time rejecting that. Because the word is very, very clear that there's two things that we need. First of all, that we acknowledge that he is, and that secondly, we acknowledge that he is a rewarder of all those who seek him. Diligently seek him is what it says. So we have this thing that happens where we reject this notion of his reward and of his favor, and that's not what this says. The lovers of God who chase after righteousness will find all their dreams come true. An abundant life drenched with favor and a fountain that overflows with satisfaction. Oh. And then look at this, verse 25 to 26. Taking the easy way out is the habit of a lazy man, and it will be his downfall. All day long, he thinks about all the things that he craves, for he hasn't learned the secret that the generous man has learned. Extravagant giving never leads to poverty. And there again, going back to my experience the last few weeks of having given a significant amount of money to a certain family that was in need. And we received that, not only that, but doors have been opened to renewed relationships in other areas. And there's all kinds of things that have been coming in. And, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be simple, but not easy. Simple is not easy. We keep talking about that. And blessings bring work with them. Just look at children. They're a blessing, but man, it's a lot of work. Yeah. Guys, I got to get here because this is simply wow. That's what it is. Simply wow. And we shouldn't be turning down what he has given to us. Verse 31, you can do your best to prepare for the battle, but ultimate victory comes from the Lord God. Yeah, are you picking up on the way this relationship is supposed to work? We are present in these things. we do what has been given to us to do, but he's going to multiply it. He's going to bring in victory in those things. He's going to increase it. He's going to bless it. And as we walk the way he's told us to walk in a way that's filled with love and generosity, he's just going to pour himself out into us. And it's a life of abundance and blessing and incredible stuff. That's what it looks like. Yeah, the ultimate victory comes from the Lord. We got to remember that. We do our best, but we never take credit for anything, because the ultimate victory comes from the Lord. It's a lot to take in today. Okay, well, you guys be blessed. Okay, love you all. Thank you for being part of this with me. And you guys have an excellent day, and we will meet up again tomorrow. God bless.